At 2:47 in the morning, the mountains along the Syrian-Lebanese border trembled. No alarms rang, no sirens screamed, no fighter jets roared overhead. The sky was silent, the valleys still. And then, beneath hundreds of feet of limestone and concrete, one of Hezbollah's most secure command bunkers simply ceased to exist. It wasn't destroyed by artillery, it wasn't leveled by tanks. It was erased by a single American bomber dropping a weapon designed to burrow into the marrow of the earth before unleashing its power. This wasn't war in the old sense. This wasn't even a battle. It was a warning, a demonstration, a message written in silence. The operation that night would later be known by a chilling name, Black Echo. And what happened beneath that mountain didn't just wipe out a target, it marked a turning point in the way America fights and the way its enemies will have to think about hiding. Because in today's wars, it's not about how loud you strike. It's about how well you end the fight before it ever begins. It all started, as many operations do, with a whisper. Intelligence teams picked up fragments of chatter from obscure corners of the internet. At first, it sounded like nothing more than background noise, until analysts began to piece it together. The chatter hinted at unusual movements in the Bekaa Valley. Crates were being hauled under camouflage nets. Trucks arrived night after night, leaving before sunrise. Satellites confirmed it wasn't farming equipment. Something more sinister was taking shape. Infrared cameras caught subtle signatures that didn't belong. Power sources running in the cold, ventilation shafts disguised as rocks, faint pulses of electronic signals, and all of it pointed toward one location buried deep within the Anti-Lebanon range. At first, analysts thought it might be another weapons cache, but the longer they watched, the clearer the picture became. This was not storage, this was a nerve center, a fortress. On June 2nd, 2025, confirmation arrived. Hezbollah was preparing to launch a new wave of kamikaze drones aimed at American oil tankers in the eastern Mediterranean. These weren't crude copies of Iranian designs, they were faster, more compact, and hardened against electronic jamming. In other words, they were designed to slip past defenses and hit where it hurt most, America's credibility on the high seas. The command post orchestrating it all lay under nearly 300 feet of reinforced rock. A successful strike on U.S. tankers would have been devastating. Not only would it have rattled global oil markets, it would have signaled to the world that America could be struck with impunity. Inside Washington, the mood was urgent. Within 48 hours, the National Security Council convened. Analysts laid it out plainly, the bunker wasn't just a depot, it was the brain of Hezbollah's drone campaign. And with only days before the expected launch window, the choices were grim. A ground assault was unthinkable, the terrain was hostile, the tunnels likely rigged with traps, and extraction was almost impossible. A conventional airstrike wouldn't work either. The fortress had been engineered with Soviet-era blueprints designed to absorb massive shockwaves. Bombs would blast the surface, but the operators inside would survive. The only solution was something far more surgical, far more final. That night, one order was given: activate the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. The mission received its code name, Black Echo, a reference to the silence that would follow once the mountain was gone. No ground forces, no warning, just one bomber, one bomb, one shot. At 2:41 a.m., high above the clouds, the B-2 glided silently across the night sky. It carried a single payload, a 5,000-pound weapon that represented years of engineering. Its nickname among the engineers was Hell Spike, though officially it was the GBU-72. Unlike older bunker busters, this wasn't built for spectacle. It was designed to disappear into stone, reach places thought unreachable, and collapse fortresses from the inside out. 6 minutes later, the bomb was released. It didn't whistle, it didn't roar. It simply vanished into the darkness, pulled by gravity and guided by GPS and AI-enhanced sensors. It struck the mountainside at impossible speed, boring through layers of limestone and reinforced concrete. Onboard instruments measured depth in real time, adjusting the detonation with microsecond precision. Then silence. 3 seconds. 4. 5. And then the mountain groaned. Deep within, a muffled heartbeat of thunder pulsed outward. Dust burst from vents. Shockwaves tore through chambers. Steel doors bent like foil. Rooms collapsed inward. Surveillance drones caught the vents imploding, the mountain folding upon itself. There was no surface fireball, no spectacle for cameras, just pure internal destruction. In an instant, Hezbollah's crown jewel bunker was reduced to rubble. On monitoring screens aboard the USS George H.W. Bush stationed in the Mediterranean, seismic sensors spiked. Operators exchanged no high fives, no shouts, just 2 words on the screen: objective neutralized, but the mountain hadn't swallowed everything. A narrow emergency shaft hidden under cedar trees cracked open. 8 Hezbollah fighters stumbled into the cold air, battered, bloodied, but alive. They carried rifles. One dragged a satellite case. They believed survival meant escape. They were wrong. Because while the bomb was still falling, satellites had already marked every heat signature in the bunker. When those 8 signatures broke away and moved toward the ridgeline, Israeli F-35s circling silently above locked in. Within minutes, 2 precision-guided bombs fell from 20,000 feet. The hillside erupted in a quick bloom of dust and silence returned. No heat signatures remained. The mountain hadn't just taken the fortress, it had taken the last survivors too. What made this possible wasn't just American firepower, it was the weapon itself. The GBU-72 Hellspike is not an ordinary bomb. It doesn't explode on contact like older designs. Its nose is forged to survive impacts at Mach speeds into rock. Its brain, a programmable fuse, reads the terrain as it penetrates, deciding on its own the perfect moment to detonate. In this case, it waited nearly 300 feet before releasing a shockwave strong enough to pulverize underground architecture. This is warfare redefined. No mass invasion, no protracted firefight, no parade of tanks, just precision, stealth, and silence. One plane, one weapon, and a doctrine that says, don't wait, don't warn, don't miss. For Hezbollah, the lesson was brutal. They believed concrete, secrecy, and depth could protect them. For decades, perhaps they were right. But that night, the illusion of safety was shattered. America proved that distance doesn't matter, that even the deepest fortress can be turned into a tomb. And for anyone watching, whether from Tehran, Moscow, or elsewhere, the message was unmistakable. You can dig, you can hide, but we can reach you. When the dust cleared, there was no press conference, no flag planted in stone, no celebration, only silence. And in that silence was a statement louder than any explosion. The rules of modern warfare had changed. Power today isn't about how many soldiers you send or how many bombs you drop. It's about foresight, precision, and the will to act before danger strikes. Operation Black Echo wasn't just an operation, it was a demonstration of the future. A future where stealth aircraft and smart weapons erase threats before they even begin. A future where America doesn't need to be loud to be effective, a future where silence itself has become the most terrifying sound of all. Now, imagine you were in that Washington meeting days before the strike. Would you have taken the risk of waiting, or would you have chosen to bring the mountain down first? That's the question Black Echo leaves behind, a reminder that sometimes the quietest decisions change the world the most, and as long as adversaries believe tunnels and bunkers keep them safe, this doctrine will echo back at them. No place is too deep, no mountain too strong, no fortress beyond reach. Because the future of war doesn't announce itself, it arrives in silence.